Discover how one amazing act uncovered the hidden kindness of a mafia boss's blind daughter in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Jake sat in the corner of the cramped newsroom, fingers hovering over his keyboard, thoughts roiling like the murky waters of the Passaic River outside. Headlines flashed before his eyes: Gambino's daughter humanitarian. He could practically hear the click of cameras, feel the rush of recognition, but the familiar shadow of doubt clawed at him. Mia Gambino, the blind daughter of the neighborhood's most feared mafia boss, was an oddity, a beacon of light in a town shrouded in darkness. He longed to write her story, to shed light on the kindness she offered amidst her family's sinister legacy. But pursuing her truth felt like hunting a mouse while a hawk circled overhead. Would he be exploiting her? As he wrestled with this internal conflict, sweat gathered at his temples, heart racing, each beat echoing the weight of his choices. That he couldn't deny that Mia's charity work resonated with something deep inside him. It stirred feelings of hope and purpose that his mundane job at the Passaic Journal had long dulled. The library had transformed into a sanctuary in a dying town, its walls lined with books, but it was Mia's spirit that truly filled the space. She smiled warmly, wrapping her arms around the disadvantaged, while he loomed like a vulture, craving the sensational story that would springboard his career. The tension of his heart twisted into an ache, rippling through him each time he thought about the consequences of his ambition. What if writing about her generosity made him complicit in exposing her vulnerability? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Shoving the CTA from his mind, he fixated on the memory of the library's recent chaos, the loud confrontation between two locals that had unsettled everyone. It happened so fast, but Mia, with her gentle demeanor, stood unwavering, her unseeing eyes seemingly finding their souls through sheer will. With her playful humor, she diffused tension in seconds, restoring calm like a magician conjuring light from darkness. Watching her remind Jake of his own cowardice, could he ever rise to her level of kindness? An insidious pressure crashed over him. He could uncover her, expose the truth and promise redemption, yet betray her trust in the process. The balance of ambition and morality swirled dangerously close to chaos. Each time he glimpsed her laughter, the desire to be part of her world swelled within him. But deep down lay an unforgivable truth. Pursuing Mia's story meant deciding who he really was, an up-and-coming journalist eager for glory or a man willing to stand in the shadows and protect the vulnerable, perhaps the more heroic endeavor. The tension grew unbearable. Could he live with himself if he allowed ambition to overshadow Mia's heart? Just when he contemplated turning away, a dark figure loomed in the distance, a reminder of the threat that met his choice at every turn. Could his quest for a headline erase the good Mia cultivated? Chaos lingered close, leaving Jake teetering on the edge, not knowing whether stepping closer to Mia would lead to liberation or disaster. Jake's hands trembled as he scrolled through the few existing notes he hastily made about Mia's charity initiatives. What struck him most was her unyielding strength, and now, with looming decisions pressing down upon him, he contemplated another narrative altogether, the one he could craft about himself. Every glance toward the library's entrance felt like an electric charge, as if he was anticipating a confrontation, yet all he saw was everyday patrons lost in their own struggles. But for Jake, every moment without Mia felt like a mosaic of conflicts assembling into clarity. Would she recognize him for the man he aspired to be, or merely as the opportunist fixated on her kindness? The atmosphere in the newsroom was stifling, a far cry from Mia's warmth. Late afternoon shadows danced across stained desks, a melancholic reminder of the joys he opted out of in favor of sensationalism. He saw the scratches on his desk from restless nights, the repetition of headlines that brought fleeting interest without real substance. Deep in his heart, he sensed he was thunderously out of place, a ship rocking dangerously on stormy seas, yet too stubborn to turn back. That he resolved to seek Mia, hoping to understand the woman behind the public perception, to ask more than just the surface of her reality. The telephone wire connecting him to her world felt taut, a bridge tethering ambition to humanity. Each competitive thought wrestled with the sense of gentleness her existence kindled within him. It was time to confront this dichotomy. He had to excavate what lay buried beneath his desire for recognition. Jake grasped a notepad. Pulling a pen from his pocket, the small act ignited a flicker of defiance against his ambivalence. As he approached the library, he envisioned asking Mia about her motivations, the events that led her to take a path littered with choices most would fear. He craved insight into her soul, to break the barrier formed by his own intentions. With the library door creaking open, the familiar scent of old books and fresh ink washed over him. There she was, standing in the center, surrounded by patrons completely at ease. The moment their eyes met, he shivered. He felt a surge of truth, stark and raw. It didn't matter if they were in the sphere of chaos or kindness, Mia was the anchor he sought. Yet, standing amidst the chaos of his conflicting motives, he felt weighted down. He wanted to ask her about her charity, her life, to understand what it meant to extend a hand while living under the shadow of her father. Instead, he faltered, caught in the pull between yearning for connection and the fear of exposing the darkness his aspirations could cast upon her. Jake fought between the urge to turn back the easy, unchallenging route and stepping forward into vulnerability. His heart pounded, he was sheathed in uncertainty and potential revelation, yearning for clarity on whether he could be more than the sum of his fears. Suddenly, an unexpected voice jolted him from his thoughts. "Are you just going to stand there?" Mia's playful tone cut through the tension, nudging him toward a choice. The moment felt alive, electric. Jake realized he had arrived at a precipice, one that required not just courage, but a commitment to authenticity. The time had come to face not just Mia, but the man he wanted to become, and what that demanded of him. His decision would not only determine how he approached Mia's story but how he chose to live his own truth. As he stepped closer, a surge of determination washed over him, but just as quickly, doubt clawed back, relentless. This conversation could reshape him, yet it teetered on the edge of chaos. What if exposing her heart meant drawing out a darkness he wasn't ready to face? What lay ahead was unclear, but Jake could feel the winds of change swirling around him. Would he step into the storm or retreat to the safety of the shadows? Jake took a deep breath, shaking off the chilling grip of insecurity as he stepped forward. As he crossed the threshold into Mia's world, he could feel the walls of his self-imposed prison begin to strain. Every heartbeat matched his mounting resolve, but with each step, doubt whispered furtive concerns. What if his intentions were misconstrued? What if his desire for authenticity faltered, exposing not only his failings but also the very vulnerability he sought to understand in Mia? "Hey, Jake." "There you are," Mia greeted him, her smile radiant and genuine. It breached the gap that had felt insurmountable just moments earlier. She wasn't just a figure in the charity world, she was a living testament to resilience. "Hi, Mia," he managed, his throat constricting. He fumbled the notepad tightly grasped in his hands. "I've been wanting to discuss your initiatives, your work. It's incredibly inspiring." Her elicited curiosity raised the stakes. "Inspiring? You really think so?" There was a lightness in her voice, but Jake sensed the depths behind her laughter. "I do," he confessed, attempting to project sincerity. "But I want to know more than just the surface. What drives you?" This was his moment, not just to learn about her but to examine own motivations, veiled beneath layers of ambition and fear. Instead of a straightforward response, Mia's brow furrowed for a moment. "It's complicated. Not every person who gives their time has an easy path." Her gaze dropped, reflecting shared uncertainty. Jake felt a bond forming amidst her unease. Jake leaned in slightly, the desire to unearth truth consuming him. "What made you choose this path? What happened that pushed you into this?" Her eyes lifted, meeting his gaze with a fierceness he hadn't anticipated. "I had to. Growing up, I saw how much pain and struggle my father caused. I didn't want to be part of that." She hesitated, sensing the weight of her history. "I wanted to be on the other side. It felt necessary to shine light where there should be none." The bravery in her admission struck Jake like a bolt of lightning, illuminating the shadows in his own heart for the first time. They were both on divergent paths, yet he saw in her strength the possibility for his own transformation. And now? Do you feel you're making a difference? He asked, testing his familiarity with the terrain of her fragility. Some days, yes, she replied, edges blurring between confidence and apprehension. But it's a constant battle against the echoes of my past. Just like, she hesitated. Just like you. A silence unfolded, pregnant with unspoken words. It was as if she had peeled back a layer of his facade, exposing the raw truths he worked so hard to conceal. With that simple statement, the force field between them dissipated, replaced by a shared recognition of each other's complexities. Jake wrestled with this newfound clarity, realizing that the very essence of his journalistic ambition might force him to confront the darker edges of Mia's life. But the awareness also kindled a flicker of hope. Did he have the courage to wield his pen as a tool of enlightenment instead of manipulation? What if the words tumbled from his lips with unexpected urgency? What if we worked together? I could help tell your story, authentically highlight the reality behind the charity. Not just the glitz but the grit. Mia's expression shifted, a combination of intrigue and apprehension dancing across her face. And why would you want that? You're a journalist. Aren't you supposed to maintain objectivity? Perhaps, Jake replied, a shadow of self-doubt fleeing in the light of honesty. But I want to forge something deeper. I don't want to just narrate, I want to connect. I want this story to reflect you. The full you. The quivering pause stretched uncomfortably between them, an energy palpable, clawing at Jake's certainty. Mia's reluctance was evident, yet a glimmer of understanding emerged as she turned to look out at the library's grand window. Daylight cascaded over her in illuminating contrast to the darkness of her past. I can't go back to fearing who I am, Jake. Her voice was barely above a whisper. He stepped forward, emboldened. Nor should you. A reckoning awaited them, a fusion of their contrasting worlds, but with every moment remaining in the conversation, Jake felt the intoxicating risk of vulnerability. The storm of revelation brewed anew. Would Mia trust him enough to navigate through her past? Maybe we could meet again? Mia finally suggested, hesitation lingering in her tone. But it would have to be on my terms. It was a breakthrough, yet with it surged new uncertainties. How far would he have to travel to prove that he could withstand the darkness that came with her truth? And what if his revelations weren't just about Mia but also about himself? As the weight of tension danced around them, Jake realized the documentation of Mia's story might unlock far more than expected, intertwining their fates toward a destination marked by authenticity or obliteration. He nodded, a soft commitment exchanged. Little did he know that the choices ahead could either liberate him or ensnare him deeper into the very shadows he sought to avoid. Mia was his lighthouse, but wouldn't the journey through the storm ultimately reveal who he really was? The next step was on the horizon, and the essence of that confrontation loomed. Was he ready to confront not just her past, but also the darkest corners of his own? Jake's mind raced as he left the library, the echoes of Mia's words still lingering in the air. Her story wrapped around him, a tantalizing enigma that stirred something deep within. How had vulnerability transformed into a weapon for both of them? The thought gnawed at him. Each step felt heavy with the weight of his own uncertainty, yet lightened by an unarticulated hope that he might finally break free from the stale confines of his career. On his way home, the city seemed to pulse with a new vibrancy. He viewed familiar streets through a lens of unrestrained potential. Each passerby carried their own stories, narratives intersecting with his. But as much as he tried to shake off the impatience bubbling within him, other voices clamored for attention. The critics in his head that muttered disapproval. Were his intentions genuine or merely a desperate grab for relevance? That night, he laid awake in bed, heart thrumming in the silence. Jake could hardly close his eyes without the replaying images of Mia, burdened by her past yet brimming with life. Reflecting on her courage ignited a flicker of something else, ambition. Did he dare channel this into something greater than self-promotion? Could a greater honesty take root in his work? As he searched for clarity amidst the swirling uncertainty, a soft resolve began to settle in. He decided he would facilitate Mia's story without imposing his own agenda. After all, it wasn't just about grabbing headlines. It was about fostering understanding. The next morning dawned, illuminating the clutter of thoughts within him. He scribbled down fragments of ideas, piecing together a framework that would highlight the multifaceted reality Mia lived. Session by session, he would uncover her journey navigating through pain while spotlighting resilience. With each word he drafted, a flicker of excitement danced in his chest. This was more than just an assignment, it felt like a chance to redefine his purpose. He sensed a visceral connection tightly woven with Mia's life. Could the act of storytelling be cathartic for both of them? But as he meticulously plotted, the fear of misrepresenting Mia nagged him incessantly. To tread lightly, he needed her explicit trust. His faith in her willingness to share this journey felt precarious. And yet, the acknowledgement of their differences drew him in a dance between a journalist and a subject that hinted at deeper connections. Later that week, Jake stood in front of Mia's office, reminding himself of the determination he had synthesized. Today was not about his own aspirations but about creating a platform for her voice, one that resonated with authenticity and heart. Mia greeted him with tentative warmth, her careful demeanor hinting at residual hesitance about unfolding her life before him. "So, what do you have in mind?" she inquired, crossing her arms defensively. Jake cleared his throat. "I've been thinking rather than just focusing on the impact of your initiatives, we could dig into your journey, the why behind the work, how personal struggles have shaped it," he proposed, watching her closely for any sign of approval. Her gaze dropped momentarily. It was a small moment of uncertainty, the kind that flickered with the weight of stories held tightly. Jake waited, a silent prayer for her acceptance building inside him. "I definitely want my story out there," she said finally, voice steady but with a hint of vulnerability. "Let us make sure it reflects all of me, the good and the bad." There it was. Jake felt a surge of determination filled with a tinge of trepidation. The doorway to a raw collaboration was wide open, but would he adequately honor her past? The personal stakes had transformed into a responsibility beyond anything he had anticipated. As they began discussing logistics, the conversation deepened. Each question he posed revealed layers of pain, resilience, and triumph that painted Mia in broader strokes than he had imagined. Jake felt as if he was walking a tightrope, balancing between discovery and jeopardization of their fragile connection. With every shared moment, he unearthed his own fears of exposure. What if he faltered? What if he misrepresented her story? The responsibility weighed on him, yet the thrill of uncharted territory invigorated his resolve. But amidst this burgeoning collaboration, a tension brewed, one that hinted at not only disclosure but also confrontation of fears unseen. What awaited them in the depths of truth, and would they both emerge unchanged? Jake realized that the quest to tell Mia's story also held the key to unveiling his own. He asked himself, could facing her past guide him to confront his own buried shadows? In that moment, he understood they were on a precipice together, a balance of revelation and risk. As they wrapped up their meeting, Mia's expression carried an air of vulnerability, a connection that glued their fates together. But would this venture breed trust, or would it unearth competition? As they shook hands, Jake felt the electric charge of possibility. This was only the beginning. What he didn't yet grasp was that secrets of his own would soon claw to the surface, threatening to complicate their entwined journeys in unforeseen ways. The weeks rolled on, and what had initially felt like a project evolved into an expedition of self-discovery. Jake found himself increasingly intimate with Mia's past, captivated not only by the narrative but by the woman herself. Each conversation peeled back layers, revealing her fears and triumphs, the intricate fabric of her life. As they spoke, he began to sense their connection deepening, an invisible thread weaving their stories together. However, in the midst of this burgeoning partnership, doubt crept in like a shadow, as volatile as the intermingling excitement. With every draft he penned, every sentence crafted to capture the essence of Mia's resilience, Jake wrestled with his own inadequacies. Was he truly equipped to tell her story, or was he simply a journalist seeking glory through her pain? The line began to blur, pushing him into a whirlpool of ethical dilemmas. On a rare break in their routine, Mia suggested they meet at a cafe in neutral ground, away from the formality of her office. As he entered, the aroma of coffee enveloped him, grounding him momentarily before the chaos of his thoughts returned. She was already seated, her fingers tapping on the table, revealing her anxiousness. "What if we take a slightly different angle today?" she proposed, her eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and anxiety. "Let us focus more on how my early life has shaped my work." Jake nodded, but a knot tightened in his stomach. That's powerful, Mia. But I wonder, do you think revisiting those memories might be painful? Her gaze dropped, and for a fleeting moment, it was like a dam had released years' worth of unprocessed feelings. Maybe, she whispered, but isn't that where the most growth comes from? When we face our demons? Her question hit home, reverberating in a chamber of his own unaddressed fears. Wasn't he too avoiding something, an element of himself that had been submerged for far too long? As she continued to speak about her childhood struggles, he felt a flicker of recognition. Perhaps vulnerable stories held the power to illuminate both their paths forward. The cafe faded into a blur as Mia recounted her first awareness of societal expectations, the confrontation with rejection, and her subsequent fire to enact change. Each word drew Jake deeper into her world until it occurred to him, her struggle might echo his own buried narratives of failure and disappointment. What about the times you felt like giving up? Jake found himself asking, sensing an opening. How did those moments shape your desire to keep going? Mia paused, her brow furrowing slightly at the thought. Honestly, some days felt unbearable. But it was those moments that made me appreciate the good ones even more. It reminds me of the duality in life. Joy cannot exist without pain. Jake's chest tightened at her insight. The irony wasn't lost on him. In seeking to portray Mia's strength, he had to confront his own vulnerabilities. How could he tap into his buried emotions to ensure a sincere portrayal? As they spoke, he considered how much he had neglected his emotional landscape while chasing after professional accolades. The nagging voice questioning his motives became more pronounced. Could he merge his journey of self-acceptance with Mia's narrative to create something uniquely profound? Their session wrapped up, but instead of a sense of accomplishment, a complex tension brewed within him. What was he harboring? Those similar patterns of avoidance, perhaps an unacknowledged fear of failure? Jake resolved that he had to confront these emotions, for not just his sake, but for the authenticity demanded in Mia's narrative. The next meeting would require more than gathering facts, it would require sharing pieces of himself. He'd need to pull back his own layers, and with that thought, apprehension flooded him. What if he revealed too much? Leaving the cafe, a storm of thoughts raged. Jake's journey intertwined with Mia's, but was he prepared for the vulnerability that lay ahead? As he walked home, a single poignant question hung in the air: would confronting his shadows strengthen their bond, or would it fracture the delicate balance they had begun to forge? The very foundation of their partnership waited precariously on the precipice of revelation. Tomorrow held the potential for liberation but also the threat of chaos. Spurred by uncertainty, Jake wrestled with the truth this collaborative narrative might just uncover the very essence of who he was and who he could become. With that, he couldn't shake the feeling that something pivotal was about to unfold. The time had come to face not just Mia's realities but his own, and the risks that lay ahead might shake the foundations of his very identity. The morning had a translucent quality, sunlight filtering through the partially drawn curtains of Jake's apartment. He awoke with a heavy heart, the weight of his unresolved emotions pressing down on him like a lead blanket. Today was not just another day of interviewing Mia, it was a moment that could alter the trajectory of his understanding of both her and himself. 2 cups of coffee steeped in his thoughts as he prepared for their meeting. The ritual served as a feeble attempt at grounding himself, yet it failed to quell the rising tide of apprehension. His fingers trembled slightly as they wrapped around the warm mug. This meeting required him to bear more than just professional interest. Confronting his fears, he took a mental inventory, the unacknowledged insecurities, the self-doubt that softened his edges, and the nagging feeling that perhaps he felt more for Mia than the assignment allowed. Once in the cafe, he felt hunted by an invisible predator of vulnerability. Mia arrived, her appearance radiant yet marked with an unmistakable intensity, a clash of anticipation and trepidation flashing in her eyes. They settled into their usual corner, the hum of the cafe shielding their intimate exchange from the bustling world outside. "I've done a lot of thinking," Jake began, his voice steady yet laced with an uncharacteristic rawness. "About your story and mine." He hesitated but pressed on. "I'd like to share some things with you, things that I've tucked away for too long." Mia's interest piqued, she leaned closer, curiosity written across her face. For a moment, the busy cafe faded away. It was just the two of them, suspended in a space where truth felt necessary. I've spent so long trying to prove myself as a journalist, but I think I've been afraid to dig deeper into my own experiences. I haven't always faced my demons, Jake continued, the words tumbling out in an almost confessional manner. You've faced so much, and I feel like I've hidden in the shadows of your story, hoping that I could paint the picture beautifully enough to distract from my own. Mia's brows knitted together, empathy swirling in her gaze. She seemed to share in his struggle. What is it that haunts you, Jake? What is it that you've been running from? Her directness sparked a fire within him, igniting repressed emotions. Fear of failure, I suppose, he confessed, the admission almost foreign yet liberating. Every time I've tried to achieve something significant, I've stumbled, convinced myself that the next time would be different, that somehow I'd become enough. Mia regarded him with a gentle intensity. And yet here you are, pushing through, despite the fear. That says something about you. Her tone softened like a balm. Our vulnerabilities connect us, Jake. Perhaps embracing them could reveal not just who we are, but the strength hidden within that struggle. Her words echoed with clarity and honesty, pulling back the layers of his uncertainty. It was no longer just about Mia's narrative, it was about a shared journey of healing and acceptance. As they exchanged pieces of their stories, Jake felt the walls he had constructed starting to crumble. The authenticity washed over him, and the cafe felt less like a stage and more like an arena of profound connection. He began sharing experiences that defined him, awkward moments of missed opportunities, the biting sting of criticism, and crushing moments of self-doubt. With each revelation, the tether between them tightened, but as he spoke, the realization dawned, revealing himself meant relinquishing control. What if his insecurities pushed Mia away rather than drawing them closer? What if the threads linking their stories frayed under such exposure? The room felt charged with emotional electricity. Were they heading toward convergence or collision? Just as he contemplated the next step in their conversation, Mia leaned in, her eyes flashing with a newfound determination. Let us do this together, Jake. Let us confront our pasts and use our stories to shape something significant. This isn't just my story, it's ours. The invitation sent a ripple of excitement through him, but with it came an unsettling terror. Was he ready to not only invest in Mia's narrative but unveil his own story of resilience? Jake inhaled deeply, looking into Mia's unwavering gaze. In her presence, he felt an odd mixture of anticipation and dread. The stakes were no longer simply professional, they had spiraled into the personal realm, and in that moment, as their stories intertwined, the question loomed larger than ever: what would it take to unveil the depths of their shared courage, and could they emerge transformed? Tomorrow's meeting would not be about the surface anymore, it would demand an unraveling that could either bind them together or tear them apart. Was he truly prepared for the chaos that lay ahead? The answer hovered, tantalizing yet terrifying, just out of reach. Jake awoke to the memory of Mia's words echoing in his mind like a haunting melody. It had been hours since they departed ways, and sleep had eluded him as thoughts cascaded relentlessly. He wrestled with the inevitability of their next meeting, each thought a bittersweet mixture of dread and exhilaration. The window's early light didn't comfort him, it accentuated an urgency he hadn't felt before. Today, he realized, was not just another chance to gather Mia's story, it felt more substantial, as if the very essence of who he was about to hang in the balance. There was a lump in his throat at the thought of baring his soul again. He feared how revealing the deeper shadows of his past could dismantle everything he had built: his career, his perceptions of himself. Still, the thought of doing this together with Mia ignited a flicker of hope. At the cafe, the air crackled with an unspoken tension. She was already waiting, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her cup. The sight of her stirred a cocktail of emotions: admiration, anxiety, and a burgeoning sense of connection. As he approached, he felt the weight in his chest momentarily lift, replaced by a resolve to follow through on their pact. "Hi," he said, sitting across from her. The initial warmth they had exchanged felt now charged with deeper implications. He noticed how she almost glowed with a shared purpose, bright yet shadowed by her own burdens. "Mia," he started, his voice steadier than he expected. "I've thought a lot about what you said. About confronting our pasts." He took a breath, searching her eyes for encouragement. I think it's time I share what I've been running from." As he began, Jake felt his heart race, the words tumbling forth like a tidal wave. Years ago, I lost a job I loved. I was so wrapped up in proving myself that I let my ambition blind me to my own inadequacies. I ignored my limitations and refused to seek help, convinced it would expose weakness. He paused, watching Mia's expression shift. It was an invitation to go on. There were moments where, faced with the consequences of my arrogance, I crumbled. I wasn't just a failure as an employee. I felt I failed as a friend, a son. I didn't want to admit how fragile I was beneath that surface, he admitted, the sting of vulnerability awakening old wounds. Mia leaned forward, her eyes soft with understanding. Jake, that's what connects us, doesn't it? We've both let fear drive us, yet we're here, seeking to change that narrative. Her words pushed Jake deeper into self-exploration. He considered how often he had masked his fears with bravado and ambition. But what if I let you down again, Mia? What if peeling back these layers just leads to disappointment either for you or me? A silence hung heavy between them, punctuated only by the distant clatter of dishes. Mia reached across the table, her hand brushing against his. You're not letting me down by being honest. You're giving us both a chance to grow. In that moment, he felt a flicker of courage unearth itself from within, mingled with a fresh resolve to shed the burdens of his past. By embracing their stories, perhaps they could reflect resilience and redefine their paths together. I want this no matter how chaotic or beautiful it turns out. Mia smiled, a glimmer of relief shining in her eyes. Then let us embark on this together, step by step. But the reality loomed. The stakes had risen far beyond mere storytelling. They ventured into uncharted territory of mutual trust and uncertainty. What if his past utterances became too heavy for her to bear? Jake squinted at the horizon where heavy clouds gathered, an omen of the emotional storm he could soon face. As their voices intermingled, he felt a renewed commitment spark within him, the kind that demanded a deeper exploration of who he had been, not only for himself but for this transformative connection they were forging. Just as he began to bear down on the next heavy realization, he was interrupted by the harried arrival of a stranger at their table. I'm sorry, but I overheard you too. You need to know what you're doing isn't without risk, and others may not react as you hope. As they froze, Jake's heart raced anew. What profound truths lay hidden in the shadows waiting to emerge? Jake felt a surge of defensiveness at the stranger's words, as if the very air around them had thickened with doubt. The cafe, once a sanctuary of shared vulnerability, now felt suffocating. A million thoughts raced through his head as he tried to process the sudden intrusion. Who was this person, and what did they know about the risks they were taking? The stranger was a man in his early 40s, dressed in a faded leather jacket. He glanced from Jake to Mia, his expression a blend of urgency and concern. I've been where you are, and I can tell you that confronting your past can lead to unpredictable outcomes. You're opening wounds that might not heal. Jake's instincts told him to push back, to defend what he and Mia were trying to build. Yet, a quiet voice inside urged caution. What if the stranger was right? What if they had underestimated the lasting impact of those wounds? What do you know about it? Jake finally managed, his voice strained as he glanced at Mia, searching for her reaction. We're just trying to connect to grow. Connecting is essential, but be prepared for the fallout, the stranger replied, his tone stark but not without empathy. You're asking each other to peel back layers that might reveal more than you're ready for. Jake's heart began to pound. It was not easy to admit, but perhaps the stranger was reflecting the doubts that had blossomed inside him since this journey began. What if he didn't have the strength to shoulder Mia's burdens or even his own? Mia's gaze, unwavering and fierce, broke through the clutter of Jake's anxiety. We're aware of the risks, but we're determined to try. What happened to you? She asked, her voice steady as she seized the opportunity to redirect the conversation. The stranger regarded her with a mix of surprise and admiration. I lost everything because I refused to face my demons. For years, I avoided acknowledging how my past choices shaped who I became. It nearly destroyed me. His eyes darkened as if he were reliving that pain. It's not the confrontation itself that's perilous, it's what we do afterward that counts. Jake felt a flicker of understanding. Confrontation was a step, an essential one, yes, but there had to be a plan for healing. The weight of the stranger's experience echoed in Jake's chest, reminding him of his own self-imposed isolation. Mia shifted back, her expression morphing from concern to resolve. If you can overcome it, so can we. This is about more than just facing pain. It's about reclaiming our stories regardless of the past. Jake nodded, emboldened by her conviction. Just because we confront those shadows doesn't mean we lose ourselves. It means we're ready to redefine our paths. A rare smile broke across the stranger's face, almost impressed. Then, perhaps you're both more prepared than I thought. Just remember, recovery is a continuous journey, not a one-time event. As he gathered himself to leave, the stranger's words lingered like shadows. Jake exchanged a glance with Mia filled with determination. They were standing at a critical threshold, and no stranger, no matter how prophetic, could deter them. Let us not just talk about our pasts, Jake said, his voice clearer now with a newfound purpose. Let us make a plan together to face them, each step anchored in support and commitment. I can't promise it will be easy, but with you, I feel stronger. Mia's eye lit up as fresh ideas sparked between them, and they began sketching out a framework for their journey. Jake realized that with each word exchanged, they were transforming vulnerability into actionable growth, infusing their conversations with purpose. But a nagging sense of foreboding loomed. The stranger's warning clung to Jake's psyche. As the sun slipped behind the clouds outside the cafe's window, a wave of uncertainty rolled through him. What if their willingness to confront their past came with consequences neither of them could foresee? As Jake put pen to paper, thoughts filled with aspirations and concerns battled inside him. How far were they willing to go, and what awaited at the end of this exploratory path? And as Mia leaned closer, eyes alert and eager, Jake felt the weight of their shared endeavor hitching a ride on his shoulders. Are you ready for what this leads us into? He asked, the resolve in him wavering. Then came a voice deep from within, unrelenting and fierce, only if you are. The question remained, what truly lay beneath their resolve? And what would they uncover when the past forced its way back into their lives? Jake and Mia left the cafe, the weight of the conversation clinging to them like a fog. The bustling street outside now felt alien. Where once the ordinary hustle seemed comforting, there now existed a shared tension coiling between them. They were no longer merely companions on a journey, they were resolute travelers ready to explore the depths of their histories. As they walked beside each other, their thoughts swam in different currents. Jake could feel the apprehension swelling within him, but he struggled to articulate any of it out loud. It was a strange contrast to Mia, who pranced ahead, her determination palpable, like sunlight breaking through gray clouds. Where do we start? Mia asked, breaking the silence and pulling Jake back to reality. Her voice was clear, cutting straight through Jake's swirling thoughts. We outline our histories, what we want to confront, and we set benchmarks for ourselves, Jake replied, the clarity in his response coming as a relief. The idea felt like a lifeline. They found a park with benches, a vast expanse of green, a stark contradiction to the weighty revelations they planned to unveil. Jake took a seat, scribbling notes in his notebook. Each word felt like a step forward, building the foundation of their action plan. Mia settled next to him, watching him intently. This is about more than just facts, it's about feelings. We have to be honest, she encouraged, her voice steady but gentle. Jake's heart raced, the thought of honesty sparked a nervous excitement. He hesitated, a protective barrier rising within him. What if his truths uncovered deeper scars? What if, in revealing his vulnerabilities, he shattered the connection he had begun to build with Mia? Let us take turns, Mia proposed, her eyes locked onto his, urging him to share. I'll start, and then you can share. With a deep breath, Mia began, her voice wavering but full of resolve. I lost my brother to addiction. It hurt us deeply as a family. I haven't fully dealt with that pain. I think confronting it might make me understand why I cling so tightly to the past. Jake listened, a deep gratitude blossoming inside him. The rawness of her confession challenged his fear. His focus shifted from protecting himself to supporting her. They were in this together, a partnership forged in vulnerability. Me? He prompted, feeling a weight lift. I grew up in a family where emotions weren't shown. My dad never really spoke about his feelings. I learned to mask my pain. There are things I never confronted, fears of failing, of being unworthy, things that still haunt me. In that moment, a shift occurred. The barriers they had constructed began to erode, revealing the softer underbelly, the healthy fragility of their joint endeavor. Do you think our fears reveal our true selves? Mia mused, openly reflecting. It's almost as if they hold the keys to our growth. Jake considered her question. They're part of who we are, but we can't let them define our paths. We need to confront these fears as allies, not enemies. As the afternoon sun dipped lower in the sky, they compiled their revelations into a coherent document, laying it bare between them as a declaration of intent. Each point crafted with care, not just what they desired to change but also how they could uplift each other during the storm. Yet, in that embrace of connectedness, a gnawing fear spiraled in Jake's mind. He felt the stranger's words echoing again, a reminder of the consequences that lay ahead. This wasn't merely an exploration, it was a journey bound to confront ghosts. What will it take to confront our fears? Jake said softly, as he looked at Mia, their eyes locking with an intensity that bore the accent of bravery and uncertainty. The answer lurked in the corners of their mounting fears, waiting for the moment they would have to face it head-on. And deep down, Jake feared that the shadows of their pasts were far closer than they dared to admit. What if everything they uncovered unraveled more than they were prepared to handle? As those questions loomed larger, so did a tether of anticipation. The next critical step was edging closer. What would their pasts reveal when they opened that door? Jake sat across from Mia once more, the air heavy with the weight of unexpressed thoughts and concealed truths. After weeks of shared stories and moments of bravado, they had reached a critical juncture, an opportunity to either embrace their vulnerabilities or retreat back into the safety of silence. The decision before them sparkled with potential yet dripped with trepidation. Are you ready? Mia asked, her voice steady but soft, a contrasting melody to the racing heartbeats in Jake's chest. Today signified not just a meeting but a pivotal milestone, a confrontation of fears that had long confined them both. Jake took a deep breath, determination rising. He had shared bits of himself through their sessions, but the fear of laying bare his deeper struggles loomed large. I've been thinking a lot about our fears and how they shape us. The expectations, the weight of being our best selves. I've crumbled under that pressure before, he confessed, scanning Mia's eyes for understanding. I think it's time I embrace the vulnerability we've discussed. A flicker of warmth lit Mia's expression, a shared acknowledgement of their mutually precarious journey. Then let us do it together, she replied, her tone infused with an unwavering commitment. Jake felt a rush, a mixture of apprehension and exhilaration. He pulled out his notebook, its pages already filled with sketches of resilience. But now, they would add the contours of fear, the personal truths that had often held him hostage. With palpable energy coursing through his veins, he placed the pen to paper once again. Let us confront our pasts, and not just in theory, Mia suggested, her finger tracing the rim of her coffee cup, a habit of hers when she felt deeply. What about setting a goal for this process? Something tangible we can work towards? Jake nodded, a sense of clarity emerging. What if we made it our mission to expose those fears genuinely, through our collaboration? We can create a narrative that showcases not only mine and your struggles but shines beyond, help others overcome their shadows as well. The shared challenge ignited something within him. It was no longer just about him elevating his career or illuminating Mia's work, it was about authentic growth through collective understanding. We'll elevate each other through this journey, transforming vulnerabilities into shared strength. Exactly. Mia beamed, raising her voice slightly, as the energy in the cafe seemed to shift in tandem with their excitement. We can work on crafting a series of articles that highlight struggles and growth, encouraging others to face their own challenges as we strive to face ours. The determination sealing their pact sent a surge of hope swirling between them. Jake could envision it, narratives brimming with resilience framing their shared stories. Each piece could unravel deeper truths, inspire courage, shift perspectives. I want to underscore how the journey isn't linear, Jake added, mindful of their mutual commitment. I want every piece to reflect the raw, unpolished realities and the triumphs behind our growth. Then let us map out our fears, Mia suggested as she pulled out her own notes. Together, they began brainstorming, channeling their emotions, fears, and aspirations into a coherent framework for their articles. Jake noted how formidable collaboration transformed their past agonisms into actionable narratives of hope. Hours melted away, each passing moment deepening their connection as they peeled back protective layers. With each revelation, a sense of solidarity solidified between them, a pact of understanding, support, and trust, but beneath the growing warmth, Jake felt an undercurrent of fear surge forward. He remembered the warning of the stranger in the cafe. The shadows of their pasts hung heavy, waiting to entangle them once more. What if their ambition ignited a chaos neither could contain? What if their underlying connection stirred jealousy or fear in the shadows? Mia unexpectedly broke the tension by lifting her gaze, as if reading his mind. "Jake, what are you thinking?" He hesitated, but knew honesty was the bedrock of their newfound bond. What if confronting these fears leads us to unravel not just our narratives but also complicate our connection? He admitted, voicing the thoughts that threatened to drown him. "We can't overshadow our growth with fear," Mia countered, her voice steady. "This journey is about acceptance of ourselves, each other regardless of what we unearth. And through that acceptance, we create a new narrative, one that transforms pain into something powerful." He nodded, a fresh wave of confidence washing over him. They had entered the territory of personal growth where discomfort intertwined with courage and realized they had the fortitude to face both. As they mapped their fears and goals, a resolute spirit enveloped them. This was more than storytelling, it was a reclamation of their narratives, a pathway illuminating the journey from vulnerability to resilience. Whatever responses awaited from their audience, they would channel authentic transformation into each sentence crafted. "Let us embrace this process, no matter how chaotic it becomes," Jake declared, his voice firmer. "Together, we'll emerge stronger, documenting each moment of growth as our individualized milestones evolve into a profound collective saga." Mia smiled, and within that look lay the assurance of unshakable partnership. As they continued to outline their future endeavors, they fortified themselves against uncertainty. They would walk this uncharted path side by side with courage, honesty, and the promise of rebirth forged through their narratives, and with that mutual determination, Jake understood that today was a significant step not just in telling Mia's story but also in redefining the man he aspired to become. Their journey was about to commence, the gravitational pull of their intertwining pasts setting the stage for something greater than either had envisioned. The path ahead shimmered brightly, woven with hope and potential, ready for the courageous souls willing to transform darkness into light. Now is the moment to act. You need to subscribe now to ensure you are part of this incredible journey of transformation and understanding. Leave a like now to fuel our mission and keep the algorithm alive. Your feedback is invaluable. Comment your reactions and theories about Jake and Mia's powerful journey. Don't let this impact fade. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who are ready to explore the remarkable power of vulnerability and resilience. Don't wait even one more second to support the channel and be part of uplifting these profound stories.